Hello, everyone. Back on this beautiful day, um, on this podcast that I still am trying to figure out the name of. If you're currently listening to me, probably you've seen a name popped up, but that's the name I can kind of come up right now. This is the podcast. And of course, like I said before, in a funny way, my name is me. and I am going to go ahead and dive deep into another topic of mine. As you may have heard from the beginning initial video that or audio I made, I really don't know what the premise of this audio is. However, that podcast, first podcast, can probably give you more synopsis as to what it's about. But since this is still the first stages, I am a college student, very passionate about nutrition, health, wellness, society, and I'm just having a conversation or chit chat about things that I see as a daily person in Gen Z while focusing more on health, wellness, and overall how people live and hopefully bringing conversations that people can sit around and talk. And of course, if there's like were to be a comment section or anything, everyone please be respectful, but this is just a simple conversation, and I hope it gives you more clarity or happiness in any space that you're in. Alrighty, so today I will be talking about just something I observed today. I do have two exams tomorrow, but of course, I'm taking the time out because I want to stick to a plan of attempting, again, emphasis on attempting to get 30 podcast episodes out almost every single day, even if it might be short, just to continue momentum going. And it's kind of the topic of the inflation of like health and groceries and how inflation is just affecting overall nutrition. I don't know about you, but especially as a college student, everyone's already scrambling for pennies to eat something. A lot of us are sticking to the ramen noodles. Some of us are sticking to several means or four for fours or dollar menus to stay afloat. But then my issue is that when you're learning about nutrition and being healthy, and you're a college student, it makes sense. As college students, we already know the freshman 15, the sophomore 10, and so on and so forth. It's common. But then what happens once we leave college, get a job, and still we're finding ourselves struggling, and families are starting to find themselves struggling paycheck to paycheck, because the costs are so expensive right now. And it's just really a real thing that people are deciding whether to pay their bills or eat a healthy living. And of course, people are going to choose the paying their bills and keeping a roof over their head and lights because that's necessary. But what then happens? Like, what is, I guess, the ultimate ramifications of doing that? Because as we know, healthy living is preventative medicine, point blank, period. Anyone can challenge me on that. But when you're deciding and debating whether I eat this apple or eat this convenient food, many people tend to go for the convenient food, but then at what cost? Knowing what we know, multiple subgroups such as African Americans having higher cholesterol, Hispanics having diabetes, and many and Native Americans as well having predominantly disposition for diabetes. It's like, at what cost does inflation have past just a roof over our heads? But it's like we can't also not live. So I feel like sometimes I believe in nutrition, we have to be more careful and more mindful of the fact that a lot of us, when inflation goes high, it's just not just the roof over our head that collapse. A lot collapse in many people's lives. Many people are going into foreclosure. I'm not saying that we're really in the emphasis of a recession right now, but there's so many changes that are happening monetarily that people are very insecure, and as we could see with the rising prices, it hasn't gone down. Um, I myself have witnessed how at times like I love eating healthy foods and cooking and being in a grocery store and buying my essentials. I have a chronic addiction to a store that should sponsor me someday. Starts with a P and ends with um where shopping is a pleasure, if you can guess that. Um and I love it there. I love going there. I love spending my money there. I've been there even during the pandemic with double masks, double gloves. I did not mind going to shop for people um, at said place. But I found myself that even despite my love of cooking, despite my love of that store that attracts me every single aisle with its items and BOGO deals, I find myself being like, is it worth spending half what I have to buy groceries, knowing I have exams, knowing I have all these things to do? Is it worth buying all this that's only for, let's say, a 2 day meal? And of course, having the time and the effort that comes with doing this said meal, that would it be just easier and more convenient just to go ahead and buy the cheapest thing that I know is still standardly cheap, not maybe so good for my health, even though I can make modifications. Not, of course, the best than me cooking my food, and I know that it's way better to cook my own food. It just reduces calories and reduces a lot of saturated fats and unnecessary things in my diet. But when I think about the fact that I have to now go and cook, which is a necessary cost, but cook for just me, and it's not gonna meet 2 days or more, it makes you think, should I just go for the conveniency where I spend my money, but it could stretch, but I still know I'm not getting my full nutrients? Many of us, even in college, has been finding themselves sticking to the basics of carbohydrates. Something that we've heard literally the bubonic plague or peasants eating. And of course, I'm not calling anyone a peasant for eating ramen noodles because they're on a savings thing. Shoot, I need to learn more about savings and how to be good. I know there's some financial girls on YouTube who literally brag on the fact that they don't spend money at all, which is a great thing. However, I do know that overall nutrition is something that has a monetary cost. And yes, in my classes, we learn many very simple things and tips that I would like to also share for others who are in my boat, who have found themselves seeing that the prices are really high right now for food. Is there a reason that I should do that instead of is there a reason or purpose for me to buy all these groceries, for me then to cook, for me then to have to go and do this all over again and see my bill, and the bill for it that I used to pay for a month is now the bill I pay every 2 weeks? And it's a really necessary evil that comes with the changes of our society, that we have these ups and downs, and socially it's like, why? But I guess through this time, I would like to share with you guys some tips to, I guess, subsidize some of those pains and kind of teach you and train me on how to kind of suppress those thoughts of going for conveniency and get a little better and smarter through the inflation of our nutrition, is what I would like to call it. Tip number 1, track your expenses. Catalog your receipts. One thing that we all know as women, especially nutritionist women or women who love nutrition, is that we go crazy in our stores. I know people of mine, and I used to have a phase of Whole Foods, Whole Foods, Whole Foods. But when you look at Whole Foods prices compared to some other stores' prices, they're quite different. I used to be led on the slide that a certain brand with the Target symbol tends to be very overpriced. And yeah, I do know that certain places that are found sometimes in specific demographics, which is true, do tend to have higher products, level products. But every store has its differences that makes it better than the competition. It's just how it is. So I guess one example of said thing is that in the Bullseye Superstore that I love to go there and shop, I know that I'm going to get my spaghetti for $1, which is unheard of. And in seeing my expenses and knowing what is going into my cart and seeing my receipts, a big thing is that a maybe costly start to this is probably shopping your meals at various of these places and taking a look at the price points. That's a more expensive way of doing this, like buying your whole maybe supply for half the month and like seeing it at various stores and comparing. Or if you're like me, who really wants to know what is going on, buy some few things, look at the prices at these various locations, and also determine how far they are from me, because even an advice that a family member has given me is that also the gas that it takes to go somewhere also gets ruled into that. So you want to kind of, even online, now that we're online shopping now more often, you're able to see the prices depending on the stores and stuff. So some friends of mine do store pickups, which is quite great because you can then pick exactly what things per price and then you can pick it up. But I like to pick up what I like to see. I would use the website to know the price compared to the other stores that I'm thinking of and then buy from there. Of course, the healthiest is the farmer's market, but you also have to see how much your mom and pop shop is willing to give you for onions compared to the pack of onions that you see at the store. Tip number 2, get the apps for grocery stores. I love my where shopping is a pleasure store because it enables me to, once I hit, I believe, $30 in buying, I get $30 back. But then I go there often. So what does that mean? That the sales that I get, whether it's $1 empanada that I get from the bakery aisle, the 30 times I get there to go get that $1 empanada, I can accumulate to, I believe, the $30 off or $5 discount that they have. So sometimes getting the app for these stores is very beneficial. Putting maybe your Apple Pay or your card on there and paying through the app can give you points. And that is a constant method that is being used right now with fast food chains. But why not use that on your groceries to even incentivize what you're spending and actually spending good for you and your family? Another tip I would say is literally, and I'm not even joking when I say this, is eat more fiber-rich foods. I feel like the reason why we tend to be very hungry and our supplies run out, again, this is inflation time. So that's why everything is a nutritionally rationalized way. And when you add protein to any of your meals or have more fiber, let's say more greens to your meal, you feel fuller quickly. That's why people come to me and tell me, oh, they had a salad for lunch. Now, I'm going to come and tell you a maybe controversial thing, and I don't want anyone to come for me, but if you'd like to discuss with me on this, go to your local dietitian, nutritionist about this, and talk to them that you heard this on this podcast by some student who's a nutrition fanatic and is probably trying to learn more. But here's where I let you in on a secret. Yes, eat romaine lettuce or iceberg lettuce, but that's not really fiber rich. Okay, it's mostly made up of water. Therefore, you're still going to be hungry. And this comes from someone who's a main romaine lettuce with olive oil and oregano eating girl. I found that out and I was like, what? It's not super highly rich. Don't get me wrong. The darker the green, the better. But, and don't get me wrong, a salad is beautiful. The fact that you're eating lettuce is amazing. And as a picky eater like myself, amazing, stellar. Yay, we thank God. Because honestly, lettuce is what got me into eating dark greens now, like arugula and kale and spinach and all these stuff. Like, it literally took that to get me to this level. And I would say that please, fiber rich greens, arugula, kale, Brussels sprouts, spinach. What are some other ones? Bok choy. I don't even think that's like a green. I'm so sorry if it's not. Watercress. These are all dark leafy greens. Okay. Still the weird lettuce feel, but that's more rich. And I'm so sorry to crush your dreams. But if you don't want to listen to me and you still want to eat your lettuce, by all means do so. But incorporate more fiber. There is, I know psyllium is a good fiber. However, psyllium is more for constipation, so do consult your doctor on that. But there is many more other sources of fiber-rich foods that is out there that is for your great amazement and discovery. And hopefully I can have a whole topic session on fiber. The next thing I would say is stress plays a huge role in how we eat today. And again, if you are suffering with binge eating, I feel you. I have, like, I won't say I'm to an obsession level, but I have seen how sometimes, at least for me, it's more drinks. I have resorted to maybe drinking more things, not alcoholic beverages, more just like soda or super high in sugar smoothie and stuff like that to calm down the nerves. But it's also increasing our urge to I guess add on these bad things to our bacteria, and these bad bacteria don't stop. They just constantly want more. And that's why, like, when you eat candy and you eat chips and stuff like that, which again, like, I am a nutritionist, which I very much am not abstain from everything kind of person. More, again, 80% of your palate should be better foods than anything. There's other programs that can teach you completely abstain, and I feel like when you get to a place of 80% more better foods, then you can get to 100% better foods, because you realize better foods can enable and suppress your bad food cravings. But why I say that you should eat better foods and start to learn in how to manage your stress and start reaching for healthy fiber mineral rich foods when you're stressed compared to when you're not, it's because this is also affecting us with this inflation. We end up buying a lot of foods outside and a lot of snacks and a lot of junk to suppress the stress that we have about having to pay for our bills, having to keep the lights on, stressing out because life is not going our way. And a lot of us are having brain fog and brain damages because we're not sleeping enough, not working out, not walking, and all these things. And then we get to a place that inflammation takes over our lives, and we're watching a whole bunch of YouTube videos talking to us about like how to lose weight, when in reality, losing weight should be a circumstantial thing of the progress that is happening within. But if our brain is on stress, our brain is already inflamed, and then it just takes a diagnosis to see the consequences of bad bacteria taking over and our brain constantly being inflamed. That was a long tangent, and I apologize for that. But I'm telling you, like, I've learned in a good about a way how decreasing eating milkshakes has helped me, and eating yogurt and more raisins and nuts has really helped me tremendously. And in this time of inflation, we can't give in to our bad bacteria And I don't like to talk about bad bacteria as a person, but in true essence, we're learning how the gut microbiota is linked to our minds. So I like people to be aware of that. Um, that I know it may sound like a weird, funny thing that like why am she talking about the gut? Like when we're talking about saving money, but I kid you not. It can be as easy as reaching for crackers and salmon. Like, bad carbs are not bad. Just adding more protein is essential. And I want to talk about that one day in a podcast session about like how and why my teacher said everyone should get protein. Like, huh? The next advice I have to be able to um I guess withstand the inflation of our food and nutrition is to learn simpler meals. And I am so sorry. I am breaking some people's hearts when I say this, but it's true. If we are going to have to combat inflation, we have to go down to the basics. And that may mean learning how to make stew that we all love, mixing it with some spinach. And that spinach can be frozen. And yes, I know someone's going to tell me, but like produce is the healthiest. Yeah, it's sprung out straight from the dirt. It just came out, most likely sourced like from a mom and pop farm just miles away. And by all means, support the farmers. I beg of you. The ones who are dealing the worst with inflation is also the farmers. So if you do see farmers or you're close to a local one, please help them out and get it from them. So support. But for those of us who are either far, you know, look into frozen foods. But about frozen foods is that also look actively on recalls, and that's sometimes the deficit of it. But I do know that most of these there's a whole process to how frozen food is out there, so don't be too petrified about the frozen foods that you get. But if you like me to dive in deep into how frozen foods are made and stuff, that was something I learned in food science, and that ultimately fascinated me and taught me a lot about sometimes the misinformation that we learn. And frozen foods are not bad. They're absolutely not bad. Frozen fruits are not bad. They can last in your refrigerator for 6 months max, and sometimes people extend them for 2 years, and please remove them. Everything has a half-life. Everything expires, including ourselves as humans. Yeah, so next tip. So another thing I would mention is that if you got your group of girlies, if you have people in the book club, if you have your neighbors, let's exchange the wholesale cards. In inflation, let me tell you right now, is a chronic grocery store hopper, and that sounds unlike probably Gen Z. So if you're Gen Z like me and you like grocery shopping like a mom, like a soccer mom, hit me up. But having wholesale cards is like one of the best things that you can do for yourself right now, because it's like, weirdly enough, while they still increase the prices to everything, you still have things in bulk, and it's way cheaper than what you will see outside. And it's like that whole concept of like Walmart is partners with Sam's Club, Costco is partners with something else, and then BJ's. Those are big wholesalers. So buddy up with your friends. Someone has a Costco card, and I know Costco is strict, so Costco, if you're listening to this, I'm not saying like Netflix share, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if you know someone who is your neighbor, you guys always get together, you have parties, everything, that person gets the list of your groceries, and let's say she gets some more little amenities for you and your fam. You give her the funds, she goes shopping, you shop for Sam, someone else shop for BJ's. Again, this is inflation nutrition techniques. People don't come for me, but it helps. Especially when you guys are tight knit. You're like family. Now, am I necessarily condoning this legally? No. But hear me out. We're going through the inflation of nutrition, and when all of this is dying down, get your own membership. Thank you. Another tip, because I'm really not listening I'm not listing the numbers. Get the normal brand. Get the generic brand. Okay? I know you want the top tier single thing in the market, but according to the FDA, people are not allowed to sell things that is not reputably the same listing on another thing. So it's just like Tylenol and acetaminophen. I'm so sorry, my pronunciation of medicine is terrible. So pharmacists, if you're there, please say it to me correctly, or any other person who just takes Tylenol on the regular. They're the same thing. Just one is called a superb name. Another one is just the generic name, the scientific name that it was given. You know, it's like, like me and you, like me and you. Okay, no, I should not use that because like that's literally in the YouTube. It's in the grammar, literally, but it's not that different. Yes, there might be difference in probiotics. Yes, there might be difference in a great green tea peach and green tea lemon. But in inflation of nutrition, we gotta think about what's nutritionally rich for me, and it means let's get for right now. Not when the times are better. Not when the savings account is good. Not when the investment account is great. But when we don't want to be struggling with our food and we still want to be nutritionally rich, this is what we gotta do. Lastly, I believe this is my last one. It is having coupons. Oh my gosh. Coupons are insane. And Gen Z, I know that is old. I am sorry. But some apps called Blank Me Not are not working. So we gotta go old school and do what others are not doing. And don't throw away the mail that's out in your mailbox. Because you gotta skim a little bit and see what things that you want to get are there right now. Because that is where the deals are. And I remember like back when I was younger that a whole group of mine used to, after church, we would have discounts for all these restaurant brands. I'm talking big meals just discounted for just groups of us, and we got it at a great price, and we'll go all the dang time. And that was to, one, keep us going, and two, we got something that we liked, our dopamine effect basically, of going from a great service to a great meal. And we went ahead and constantly went and got them. We'll just ask auntie, uncle, can you give me something? And then, they give it to us, and then we're running to go get these meals. And while those are amazing childhood memories of mine that I would love to tell my children someday, or future people, I would like all of you guys to know that it's not weird in this day and generation to, instead of throwing it in the trash, look at those coupons. Because one time I saw a lady's whole cart go from $100 to $15. And tell me why I had 7 things, and at again my favorite store of all place that ends with a pleasure, and she had $100, more like $1,000 worth of stuff that was even retailed at $100 because she knew that it was a sale day, and then with the coupons got down to $16. And she bought in bulk. And I talked to her at the end and I was like, how? And she's like, she's always been looking for deals. She uses all the deals and she collects for also the family and for the people around her. And this may have also been her business. So there's also that. So couponing moms, I'm telling you, these people who have kids and are stay at home moms, I'm telling you, they are banking and have some kind of wisdom that some of us who are hustling women, I'm not gonna say we do have it, but we just gotta pay the bills and we gotta pay the line and we gotta pay the 50% of the household stuff. Okay. This is not a relationship podcast, but I'm just saying, like, this is what's up. But yeah, they got some kind of game that we don't got is basically what I'm saying. But we gotta make it happen for this inflation of nutrition. I think I'm gonna have one more point left on this. So my bonus tip for everyone out there who's possibly listening, possibly not, is planning your meals. In this time, I know some of us postgraduates who are working don't want to go back to the ramen noodles. Some of us are because they want certain financial goals, and I do understand that. But in a nutritionally rich time that we want to be nutritionally rich with inflation, I would say that still take care of your gut by planning out your meals. But it could still be the same meal. Now, I think nutritionally rich is filled of various of veggies, various of color, but having the same kind of meals that has these variously rich things, because again, if you take only one thing and constantly have the same thing over and over and over, what happens is that the benefits of that thing becomes an enemy. But that's again a podcast for another day. I'm so sorry. So hopefully you get to tune in. However, I would say that it is best if you figure out the same meals that you like to have every single day. I personally am on this fitness app that I have loved and have had for years, but I've never knew how to work the nutrition aspect of it. So I kept constantly seeing the same meal over. But guess what? It was still programmed that I would still have the same amount of protein and the same amount of these nutritional goals that I was trying to target within that whole meal. So that made me still eager to be on the app. And honestly, if I followed that nutritional advice, except the thing I like different foods all the time, I probably would have seen results from that as well. But I already knew what would be best for my target goals, so I just fixed it up myself. But in the inflation of nutrition, let's stick to an equal palette of specific spices, specific seasonings, specific foods, and playing around with them. Okay. So that is some tips that I would like to give to you guys about the inflation of nutrition. I don't necessarily have an email right now, but I hope this helps. If you feel like this was very delightful and a great podcast, then I might put the email to this podcast on the comment section, and you can, I guess, email me and talk to me, or either comments below. If there's a comment section to this, I don't even know. Just go ahead and, I guess, intrigue me or delight me with some feedbacks that you have or some questions you may have. Again, I'm not a licensed nutritionist, nor dietitian, nor physician. However, I am a passionate college student who loves nutrition and healthy living, and currently pursuing a bachelor's in something I will tell you in another podcast, because I have a whole discussion about the bachelor's I am pursuing. But wild guess, imagine which one it is, and hopefully in the next podcast you will get to find out more about said bachelor's. Lastly, I would say the inflation thing is kind of being crazy. I feel like a lot of us are going on convenience, myself included. But I believe that if you are doing the restaurant things, like sometimes I have found myself doing, because I'm like, why not just get the little hack from my favorite Mexican chain place, without mentioning any names, and get the specific pointer thing and get that food and call it a day, which has helped me on some occasions. But again, it's the thing about being nutritionally rich, and you can't just have one color palette consistently. But again, that's another conversation for another day. Um, and for sure, I would like to catch up with you guys on any form of platform that I will ultimately be creating this on. And yeah, it's I just want everybody to be able to know that it is possible to be nutritionally rich even in these times. And it is possible. As much as you may hate it, and as much as it's more convenient to do something else, I would say attempt to do your favorite foods at home. Attempt to even have little party sessions with your neighbors. At least for me as a college student, all my neighbors are college students, but having food parties can really help with this crisis, as in people buy a little bit of things, sharing sometimes simple eggs and stuff can help. Not having a lot of red meat, but going for the chicken or just eggs in general can really help. Salmon, I know sometimes is very hard to come by because it's more expensive, but canned salmon is good, and specific canned salmon is quite good. Olive oil is a key staple ingredient, so please don't neglect it. Even though I know it might be expensive, just know one tablespoon goes a long way. But by all means, this is the end of the podcast. I just wanted to share my insights on the inflation of food. It's really getting ridiculous, but from someone who just came from buying a $17 bowl of pasta with a lot of chicken and a lot of veggies in it, it's kind of getting annoying to pay $17 for a bowl of pasta. And you want to negotiate it, but you do remember that it is a mom and pop shop, and at the end of the day, that food ultimately did stretch. So again, stay tuned for another podcast. And I'm so sorry that this is 37 minutes, but I hope you find this intriguing, and I hope that the inflation doesn't eat you up and we stay nutritionally rich and blessed and helpful. Thank you for listening. Bye. Hasta luego.